So I have the Insta360 X3 and I just took it on a 3-week trip, picked up a tow vehicle, drove to Alabama, bought a new travel trailer. I then took that down to the Florida coast, the Panhandle, and spent 3 weeks going along the Florida Panhandle from west to east, and then up through Georgia, South Carolina, back in North Carolina. And I used the Insta360 X3 primarily for getting B-roll shots of me pulling the trailer outside the vehicle. So I had a sticky mount for the GoPro sticky mounts on the mirror. I also had one on the trailer as well. I did use the clamp as well a couple of times, and I did take the Insta360 X3 out on a couple of runs with me so that I could kind of get a time lapse. Mainly did that for social media, Instagram more specifically. The Insta360 X3 is a really good tool, and especially for travel filmmaking, I think it's something that you should have in your kit. Audio is one of the things that you really kind of keeps you from using it really kind of to vlog with, or for me at least, it's kind of pushed me over to the more B-roll side of things. I did make my own little dead cats that I stuck on the side of it. I do have all the attachments, the audio attachments, but really adding the audio attachment just kind of made it more cumbersome. And I really wanted to use the X3 and just pulling it out, turning it on and using it. So the dead cats did work for me, but I really couldn't put the cover on it, and they kind of started peeling off, and so I just went ahead and ripped them off and just said, you know, I'm not gonna worry about it. Then, oddly enough, Insta360 X3 just came out with the same concept, but specifically for the X3. So that's what we have here, along with the remote. I did use the app, and I used that to remote start and stop recording. It worked, but it's kind of cumbersome, and it would sometimes it would connect, sometimes it wouldn't connect, and then I'd have to like X out the whole thing. And then when if you're playing audio on your car stereo, so Apple CarPlay, and what I found was when I went to the Insta360 app, it would make my audio do some weird, crazy stuff. So I couldn't keep the app open. It just wasn't a very fluid experience using the app. Plus, I was using my phone for other things, and so I decided I wanted to get the remote. So I did get the GPS action remote. I also got the spotlight for the Insta360 Flow. I do like it better than the DJI gimbal, and I'll have a review on that soon. And then here's what I'm talking about right here. This is the wind muffs. All right, so now that we have everything unboxed, right here we have the mics, and it's very simple. It's basically just these little pieces right here. It's got a little Velcro piece on one side, sticky adhesive on the other side. You just take that and you're going to line it up with the holes. Once you have that stuck on, you'll just take this piece of foam right here, and then this foam sticks just like Velcro. One thing that you do need to remember to do, and it actually tells you in the booklet on here, to make sure when you put these on, you put it in stereo mode, because if you put it in wind reduction mode, it dramatically alters the quality of the audio. So I wanted to test out the wind muffs. I had them on the motorcycle. Of course, that's going to be too much wind. What I think, so what I don't know, and what I need to find out through testing is with the app, if you closed out of the app, the camera would eventually, it'd go into a standby mode, and then eventually it kind of turn itself into more of a more permanent off mode. There's a very slight breeze, so I guess what I'm going to do now is just run up and down the beach and try to see if you can hear any wind on it. So that would have been the equivalent of about 5-mile-an-hour wind, if even that. But this kind of gives you an idea of how these work. These are going to work just fine, I think, for a very light wind, 5 to 10 miles an hour. But once they get over probably 10 miles an hour, you're going to want to go to the onboard mic system. So having the wind muffs on here and it being in stereo mode, I think this will make it viable to be a good vlogging camera. But one of the issues I'm seeing is, in order to put the cover on, whether it be the rubber cover or
the neoprene cover, you have to take off, obviously, the little wind muffs. So take them off, stick them in your pocket, put the cover on, pull it back out, put them back on, and doing that over and over and over could be problematic, and the chance of you losing them are pretty high. Even just putting your hand in your pocket to get something out could potentially cause a problem. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. So I think this is a decent little solution for what it is.
Next we have the GPS action remote. It comes with 2 straps. The longer of the 2 straps here, this is for your wrist. So you basically run this through and line it up right there. And the smaller one is actually for a pole.
You'll put the band on just like an Apple Watch. To pair it, you'll basically, the first time you turn it on, you'll press the shutter button, it'll say pair. You click the shutter button again, it'll go into pairing mode. You then get the X3, and you're just gonna pull down on the drop down menu, and then there's gonna be a little remote icon right there. You're gonna tap on that, and it's gonna pull up, and it's gonna say paired, none, and then it's gonna show you available. It'll sync up and pair, and then basically on the remote itself you have power button, you have the mode button on the very bottom, you have the charging port, you have the display, the capture button. One thing I found is it cannot do HDR for some reason. So it shows right now, if you look, it says HDR. However, when you cycle through, it won't go back to HDR. So if you put it on HDR on the camera, it'll work. You turn the camera off, back on, it'll be on HDR. But the moment you use this remote to cycle through, it will not go back to HDR. The fact that the remote doesn't cycle through to HDR, I don't know if it's something they can fix in a firmware, whether it be through something with the X3 or if they can actually update this firmware or not, I don't know. I'm actually going to send a trouble ticket into Insta360 and see what they say about that. Battery life on the remote seems to be pretty good. I used it for about 4 hours straight without turning it off, and it's down to 3/4. As far as the wind muffs go, I think they're a pretty good value. You know, $10 for what this is. This is 50 cents worth of product that you're paying $10 for, but it's the convenience of it and the fact that it's, you know, cut out perfectly just to fit right there. Now, when it comes to the actual stickies, they're holding on there pretty good. I found that you want to use this rubber hood. If you put the neoprene cover over, it's going to catch and it's going to start pulling at these, and I think over time it will pull these off. You can use the neoprene cover, but here, I'll see if you can hear this. I'll put this right up to the mic. So that was me putting it all the way in, and I'm going to pull it out now. And so you can hear that it's catching on this neoprene, and over time that's going to make these stickies come off. So I was actually pleasantly surprised on how effective these little wind muffs were. So I had it on my motorcycle 25, 30, 40 miles an hour, and you weren't getting the really that you would get if you had them off, or if you had any other, like your phone stuck out a window or something like that. They work surprisingly well. Does that replace the need to have something like the Ulanzi PT20 for the Rode Wireless Go 2, or this right here is from a company called X Mounts. They're based out of Kauai. So, I mean, obviously the wind muffs don't replace that. If you want the superior audio, you either want to have one of these two devices recording, or you want to have like an external audio recorder. So do I recommend both the wind muffs and the remote? Of course, I highly recommend them. In my testing over several days, they've worked flawlessly. They've worked great. My only concern about these little wind muffs is losing them. Thank you for watching. I hope this video was informative to you. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. If you feel so inclined, you can like, subscribe, and share. And until the next video, have a wonderful day.